Hi, Pushpendra. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. How are you?
I'm really well. Thank you so much for joining us for this 49th edition of the Festival du Nouveau Cinema in Montreal. It is such a shame we can't have you in town so we can wine and dine you and show you the Montreal and Festival du Nouveau Cinema hospitality.
Yeah, it's really a shame. Maybe, hopefully next time. There's always a next time. Yeah.
Congratulations on your beautiful film, Leila or Sadgeet, which is a Shepherdess and the Seven Songs, which is an official selection in the international competition here at the Festival du Nouveau Cinema. Tell me, how
Yeah.
is it? How did you end up making this marvelous film, and where did this idea come from?
The idea came from Rajasthani folk tale, which I had read some 8 years back. And initially, I wanted to turn it into a film set in Rajasthan only. But then I did not have the rights because I met the writer. Then he had already given the rights to someone else. And then, after I completed my second film, Ashwathama, one of my producers, Sanjay Gulati, I was discussing with him and he was also fascinated by the story. And then I told him, maybe, we can have the adaptation rights, because over the years, I've been thinking that the story, it looks so contemporary today when we look at Jammu and Kashmir, the kind of conflict which is there in this folk tale. So, and then he met the writer's son because the writer had passed away, and then the son agreed, and then then I decided to adapt the story in Jammu and Kashmir, and that's how the whole idea came and it progressed.
The film is absolutely enthralling, and it's a beautiful film that one really needs to watch in a cinema, on the big screen. It's magnificently shot. Your cinematographer did a great job, and it's very well directed.
Yeah.
The way the story flows and the way you have layered it is so meaningful and really poetic. We all felt that way, and we're so grateful that you've told this very, very big tale. Tell us a little bit about the cinematography of the film.
If you look at my other films also, they're very cinematographic because I feel the medium, demands that. So it's such a pity that, the film will be seen online on small screens, and I hope it can be watched on big screens. Even the festival can arrange a big screening. What I do is in every film, I work with certain principles, which I derive from the whole story itself. So in this story, certain metaphors around the conflict and, identity was very important for me. So then I designed my principles around that. And then the nature, because the shepherd tribe, it stays in the jungles, so they're very close to nature. I remember on my first Reiki when I went there, and I met this shepherd, and I was walking with him in the jungle. And then the first question I asked him was, okay, if I ask you, what are your struggles? Like in one sentence, what will you say? And then he walked and then he turned back and he said, we love the jungle. So if these jungles can be protected and we are allowed to stay here, nothing like that. And that's our struggle, because we are not allowed to do that. So then, that triggered inside me. And then suddenly, I've brought, if you look, the film is punctuated with songs, but also with nature and the protagonist Leila's internal voiceovers are also punctuated by this nature shots, So
I found this incredible that it's a story about Rajasthan and it blends so well. It seems like an authentic tale coming from Kashmir to me, I would like you to speak about the writing of the script, and then I would also like you to address the magnificent actors and casting that you did.
Yeah, yeah. Script, of course, in the original folktale, I chose the characters from the folktale, and the characters had certain functions. So, like, because it was a very old folktale written in late 60s, there was a feudal lord, and then there was a guy who was working for the feudal lord, and then there was this protagonist, and then the husband who's like afraid of what happens, and then she plays around with everyone. So that was the story. And I was because I read a lot, I follow the politics a lot, and so in Kashmir, I always felt that the security force are the new feudal lords, because they are governed by the government of India, and the local security, like the police or the forest guards, they are like the in between, and then we have this marginalized class who suffer, so then I just took those characters and their functions and I transposed them to Kashmir, and then because they migrate, they have this transhumance migration, which is the largest transhumance migration in the world. So on the onset of the summers they go higher up in the mountains, and before the winters they come down. So then it became a journey for me. And of course, Kashmir has this spiritual background of Lal Ded, who was a mystical figure in the 14th century, a poetess, and at that time also there was this conflicts between Hindus, Muslims, and Buddhists, and in her poetry she talks about all those also. So then, like I brought that also, then it becomes like an inner journey also. So while I was writing, and that's why, the songs became very important for me, as a journey, to mark the journey itself. So that's why then I built 7 chapters in the film. So the script was actually built like that. And with casting, it's all non-actors.
How did you choose the songs?
Songs are local folk songs from that area, from the community itself. One of the actors who plays the husband is a singer. So he really helped me a lot in finding those folk songs. So except the last 2 songs, which are by Lal Ded. One is by Lal Ded and one is by Parvati Baul, who also is from Bengal, but into the same mystical traditions, which we see there's a connection from Kashmir to the south. We have this, because they are like mystical bards who travel, like everywhere.
Amazing.
And they connect, and so they have this similar concerns on spirituality. So in the end, like I wanted to transcend the whole idea of regionality, and like it's like connecting everything else. So then I chose a Baul song from West Bengal, sung by Parvati.
Amazing. That's beautiful. And about the casting?
Casting, except Laila, she's a professional actor whom I had met at a film festival in India, Dharamshala Film Festival, and she was there in my mind. And because I wanted someone who could pick up the language very fast, so then that I knew. So then, like I cast her, and others are people from the same place, real people, from the same place. So if the shepherds are the real shepherds, and the police guy, the senior police cop is a school teacher from the same area where we shot.
Unbelievable. He seems like a professional actor as well. They all seem like professionals.
And then the forest guard is, Mushtaq is a professional actor from Srinagar. So because I wanted a Kashmiri guy, like who works there as a security guard. So then I called him from there. Yeah.
Look, his voice, I mean, people who speak Urdu or Hindi will understand how beautifully he speaks Urdu and how well he conveys his accent and his language, and the sound and intonation of his voice is spectacular. So that's outstanding. How, I think, I hope he gets lots more work, because he's just brilliant.
Yeah, he's very talented. Yeah. Also because, he's that kind of character that I did not want him to be black or villainish, So when I was like looking at photographs from actors from Srinagar, I liked his face quite a lot because there was a sensitiveness on his face, some gentleman like character on his face. Then I, like we spoke over the phone, so to like a Bressonian casting, like I heard his voice and I said like, you are doing the role, I want you,
Oh, that's so brilliant.
because
I'm
he
really
had that
not
other,
surprised. Yeah, but you
what
see,
we call in
this
Urdu.
dichotomy, this exists, this complexity exists in human beings. I really like
Exactly.
the fact that you're not demonizing anyone, because good and evil
Yeah.
exists in all people, and very often good people do evil things. And the way you
Exactly.
presented
Yes.
this character makes it so complex. Speaking of
Yeah. Yeah.
great complexity, Lela
Yes.
is possibly the most complex character I have seen in a film from South Asia in a very, very long time. How did you write that character? And tell me a little bit how you work with your actress.
Uh, Writing, of course, mostly I took from the folk tale, but then because I was adapting it to Kashmir, uh, so I was spending a lot of time with the Bakarwals, who were the shepherds. So I heard their uh, folk tales also. So there was a very similar story in their folk tale also. So like how folk tales are connected. It's like 1001 Arabian Nights. You can find
Absolutely.
similar stories in India also, everywhere. So I found that connection there also. And then, of course, the figure of Laldev, which is, you cannot escape her if you are there in Kashmir. So, I found just an opportunity to bring all those in one character. That was, yeah, my idea. And then, like while writing, I brought all those things together in the
Huh.
character. And with the actress, yeah, I told her to, I arranged her stay with a shepherd. So, so she had to stay there. And then I told um, the Bakarwal, who also is there in the film, who plays this uncle, in the police station scene, he's like fighting.
Oh,
So the
yes.
same guy in
Wow.
his house. Yeah, yeah. And we see his family also in the film. So then I told him and his wife that, like you have to grill her, like make her do things because, acting, I believe, lies in the actions you do.
Yes.
So like make her do actions, like don't philosophize or don't do anything so that, it comes into her body, the whole
Yes.
nature of a shepherd is. So then, and then I would go and test her like in activities, like, okay, let me see you, uh, you know, washing clothes at uh, a spring, or like working with the goats, sheep, or like making chapatis or vegetables on the earthen,
Yes, and this
stove.
beautifully translates like to the cinematography goes to the human body and the human interaction, and then the animal interaction, and how you've shown nature and the human relationship with
Yeah,
animals. I mean, how did you direct those sheep?
yeah. Fairly, like you see all my films. So I made one documentary, and this is like three. This is my third fiction. In everything, in all my films, animals play a huge role because I also come from the same background. At my home, in my village, my family has like cows and buffaloes. Um, and I've grown up. I studied in a boarding school, but like 3 months, I used to play there between those animals. So like I don't find it difficult to deal with animals. Because they are part of our life. It's part of nature. If you spend time with them, it's very easy. You just have to understand their nature, respect them, and like it comes back.
Yeah, and the way you use the sheep and the way you use the donkey and the way you use, how you juxtapose the human characters with the nature of animals, I think that's also very
Yeah, yeah,
clever, very brilliantly done. So
yeah,
kudos to
yeah,
you on that. Tell me a little bit about your
yeah,
sound design also, because, I felt like sound played a very huge role in the way that we
yeah, yeah,
felt the emotions of the film.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, in sound design, while working with my sound designer, we worked on this idea of again nature and sounds from nature. So while recording, also like I used to tell my location recordists that while we were setting up things, you just go to the jungle, like, and try to record specific sounds. And then while designing, we used to listen to different sounds, and then we'll pick up one sound and then play with that in the sound design. So, just to, signify the mood of the scene, so yeah,
I'll
we've
come now
done
to a
that.
more serious note. This is a brave and
Yeah.
bold film. How do you think this film is going to be perceived or seen in India at this time of political kind of turmoil in that country?
It's going to be difficult. I'm always expecting that. So the first decisions will come to know now because we've applied for the censor. So let's see, how they react, and so those will be the first reactions we'll get to hear from them. So, and of course, we want to do a small theatrical release also, especially in Jammu. So if we clear the censors, then I think we should not find it difficult. But yeah, because in the censors, what the censor, what we've done is we've removed one shot where there was this partial back nudity,
Yeah,
because we were expecting there'll be a backlash, from not only from the censors but also from the people, so to play it safe, because the story is more important for me in that sense, and it should
absolutely.
reach and people should talk about it, and that's my idea. Unfortunately, because of the pandemic, we could not get the reactions. Otherwise, in the Mumbai Film Festival, we would have got the first reactions if it would have
Yes.
happened actually.
Yes,
Yeah,
and
but
it is a
unfortunately, it's
shame
not.
because the film, I mean, but you were able to go to Berlin and were able to enjoy
Yes.
at least that, glory, and people really gave great
Yeah, yeah,
accolades to your film and showed lots of love. So that's very lucky of you that at least that happened. Now, do you think you're
yeah,
going
yeah.
to
And the
wait?
reviews are also quite good. Yeah, yeah.
Oh, yes,
Thankfully,
outstanding reviews.
yes.
But are you going to wait, or are you going to wait for the pandemic to be over before it gets theatrical, or not really?
No, no, because in India, the theaters are still closed. The government is not allowing. So they'll only allow once, it goes away. So probably next year, or let's see, because we see the first sign of opening, we see, it could be good for us because all the big films have gone to all these VOD platforms. So they might have less of content to screen. So we see this as an opportunity for us, actually, for smaller films, to get a release. So maybe, like if it opens, because audiences won't go immediately to the halls, and so also they won't take a chance, a risk. But our films are always a risk, no one wants to see them. So hopefully, yeah.
So I know I'm going back a little bit, but because I'm absolutely in love with your film, I will ask you, so is it just me, or is it intended that that your protagonist Leila is a metaphor for Kashmir, and it could very well be a metaphor for how India and Pakistan, for example, are fighting over Kashmir, and I felt like it's a very strong metaphor for what's happening in South Asia and all over the world, basically, but especially places which are so contentious on a piece of land.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Uh, this was also, I didn't want to talk about it, but since you brought it, this was the starting point for me to adapt, actually, the whole folk tale. Because, we see, Kashmir, it's like this piece of land, uh,
This
which has a
beauty.
history in the past, since partition. We have been fighting. There are many parties to it, Kashmiris, Pakistan, India, even China. So, we see all that. That's why you see the prologue of the film starts with this guy lifting the stone,
Yes.
as if he owns it, like he's the strongest, so he can own it, And then this guy says, okay, you can marry the girl, you know. And, like when I was studying the culture of the tribe, and I'm very fascinated by this thing. Okay, at the marriage time, they ask people to pick up the stone, who can pick up the stone, like who is the strongest. And I was like, wow. So I have to include this scene in the film, actually, to begin with, and everyone is trying to control her, and yeah. but she has an independent thought and identity, so that I wanted to convey. And the tribe itself, like represents this whole idea of that borders are redundant. They have been migrating for thousands of years without borders, but because of partition and this modern idea of nations, suddenly, they can't travel further. Otherwise, if you look at their past, they have this whole tribe of Gujars and Bakarwals, you know, uh, there are links that they come from Central Asia, but some say they have link with Georgia also, so that's how the past goes. So,
Well, the
so I
music
wanted to comment on this
definitely
whole
has
idea
that.
of, yeah, there's
The
no
music
meaning of
definitely
boundaries
has that
actually.
connection too, right? Like the music is relatable
Yes, yes,
because it's
exactly.
folk music,
Yes,
and folk music has no borders. And folk music has already
exactly.
traveled all these places before colonizers, for example, set the borders.
Yes, yes,
And so, and
exactly.
language
Yeah,
has no border, and animals have no borders. So, and you use
exactly.
all
Yeah,
of those things to create a beautiful, stunning tale of survival and of this area, this land and its people and their struggle, which can be related
yeah,
internationally, and everyone across the world can really feel the the
yeah,
sadness and the joy of these people. So thank you for making this
exactly. Yeah.
beautiful film. Now I have
Thank
some
you.
more
Thank you.
personal questions for you. How are you surviving COVID? How is it going for you?
Yeah, initially there was a sense of disbelief because I was supposed to travel. The film was there in new directors, new films, and my
Wow.
previous film, which was a documentary, was invited to CPH Docs. So, and then I was planning with this film also, like travels were scheduled. So initially it was like really difficult for me, and but then slowly started seeping in, and I've started accepting it. So now I'm back to watching films, reading a lot, uh, and it's been now 7 months since I'm stuck at home. I'm
Where are
not going
you?
out.
Where is
I'm
home?
in Pune. Yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
that's
Pune.
nice. And you're teaching there as well, if I understand correctly.
I used to teach there until 2015, and then I left because I wanted to make films. But then I was a visiting faculty. But it's been 2 years since they blacklisted me because of my outspokenness on
Oh,
social
I'm sorry to
media,
hear that.
and yeah, and supporting the student protests. So, so yeah, there's this culture in India nowadays. Yeah, it's really like all countries. They are finding ways to like uh, you know uh, instill this fear in people. So so yeah, I don't teach anymore now there. Yeah,
I'm sorry to hear that. Yes, I know there's a culture of suppressing of dissent, and anybody who speaks up, uh, is
yeah.
targeted. What is next for you?
Next, it's interesting. I have like a lot of ideas now, and I'm still ideating. Uh, I, there's this uh, transgender group called Hijras in India. I did a workshop with them in 2018, and I've been following them. Um, so I want to do a web series on their stories. Uh, if some VOD platform picks that up. Uh, But then also there's a very interesting Urdu writer whom I like a lot, called Nayyar Masood. Uh, so I like a few of his stories, and then I want to adapt them also. So I'm still ideating around those stories. So hopefully I can adapt them.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's wonderful. Well, we look forward to whatever you make next. Please know that there's a huge international audience of, South Asians and non-South Asians who absolutely adore your work, appreciate your work. Thank you for being so brave and so bold. We thank your entire team of Leila or Geet, the Shepherdess and the Seven Songs, and we thank you
Yeah, yeah.
immensely
I
for,
also thank my whole. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
you should be
I also
so
thank
proud.
my cast and crew for braving it up, actually going there with me. Yeah,
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 absolutely.
to
It's a
shoot.
bold
Yeah,
and brave film. I mean, you just, you people who don't know
yeah,
South Asian culture don't realize maybe how showing sex or sexuality or these very personal, intimate moments is so difficult in our culture. You know, like I'm you know,
Exactly.
so even the fact that you go there is quite commendable. But I thank you so much for
Yeah.
taking the time for the Festival de Nouveau Cinema and for joining us today, Pushpendra Singh. We can't wait to see your
Thank
next
you.
works. Have a wonderful day and best of luck for the new year.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much.